So I got a new figure yesterday from Monster Arts, and this one is Monster X, not to be confused with Monster Zero. He's from the 2004 film Final Wars, which was aptly named because it was the final film with what I consider to be the classic Godzilla. The next live action Toho Godzilla film would be Shin Godzilla, which was such a departure that I consider it to be not part of the original series going back to um, the Showa era. So in the Final Wars, Godzilla's defeated. There's Godzilla from Final Wars. He was defeated right at the beginning of the movie by the Earth Defense Force, which are mutants from around the world. Although I was amused by the fact that if you look at the various members of the mutant defense force, they look to be about 95% Japanese. So Japan clearly doesn't have access to the same multicultural actors and actresses that the United States does. The one American character who was Western is Don Fry, and Don Fry is a MMA fighter and a really good MMA fighter in his time. It was back in the 90s. He was in early 2000s. He was amazing, one of my all-time favorites. But he's not an actor, and he has a major role in the film, and his look is very good, but his acting is awful. In fact, I think this was his first acting role, and his role in there is big. So every single one of his lines is in English. So if he's communicating with another character, they will speak Japanese. He responds in English. So that's a little bit strange. He doesn't make any attempt to speak phonetically at all during the film. It's definitely not. It ranks pretty low in my list of films, of Godzilla films. The CGI is awful. That's just not Toho's forte, and it's clear that there was a lot of influence from The Matrix, and they did a lot of wire works, a lot of CGI. They are not good at CGI, and it was trying way too hard to be cool, and I just don't think I don't like it. It has no like the classic Showa era and some of the other ones, they have a charm to them. I didn't find this film charming, and a lot of people maybe like it. Once they got to the kaiju battles, I thought it was very good. They're very good on miniatures. They're very good on people in costumes. But otherwise, so one example is when Toho wanted to kind of take revenge on was it 1999 or 97 or whatever version of Godzilla from the U.S. So they created their own CGI Godzilla called Zilla, and so they had a mixture of CGI with original Godzilla in a costume, and it just looks awful. It looks terrible. So Gigan is he gets the most screen time, I'd say. Well, no, I would take that back, because the battle with Monster X does go on quite a while. Gigan is built up. He gets 2 battles with Godzilla and just gets obliterated. If the first time, really humiliatingly, and then in the second time, he accidentally decapitates himself. So it doesn't work out very well. So Monster X. So let me put Gigan, Godzilla, a little bit to the side. It's a not my favorite design. I guess it's supposed to be a skeletal bipedal dragon, and these are supposed to the silvery gray parts are supposed to be kind of a skeletal look to them, and then this is very skeletal. He has a split head with another head in between. So I can remember the first time I saw this character, and I was like, well, that's an odd-looking character. One of the things to note, and when I was going through this figure, I thought maybe they'd made some errors, but if you look, the knees on here are significantly different, and You can see the shins and everything. He's very asymmetrical, and it's an interesting choice to make it so asymmetrical, and I'm assuming that this is accurate to the film. But he's kind of an ugly looking figure, and definitely looks like a man in a costume. You can definitely see the man in this costume. Also with Gigan to a degree, but really with Monster X, it really looks like a guy in a costume. And Monster X is rather agile for a kaiju that is supposed to be 120 meters tall. Godzilla in the film is 100 meters, so I think that that's a believable size difference. So I think that they tried for accuracy in the sizing. Godzilla pretty much just plows through every one of the kaiju. I think this film has the most kaiju of any, and he just steamrolls them until he gets to Monster X, and Monster X is a formidable foe. Although he does defeat Monster X, but then Monster X is able to transform into Kaiser Ghidorah. So each one of these, so the split heads each form a separate head, and then this forms a head. And so it's basically sort of a modified version of King Ghidorah. There are differences, but King Ghidorah changes constantly. Different producers or filmmakers make him differently. And so if you go and do some research on it, Kaiser Ghidorah is supposed to be of the creature Ghidorah. It's complicated with because there's really very little continuity in these films. There is sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 films in a row that have continuity, but I always had the impression that each Ghidorah was supposed to be just different, not necessarily like there's 2 or 3 versions of Ghidorah, but that they just remade him differently. But I guess that the assumption is, or what they're saying is that there is a kind of a race of Ghidorah, and that Kaiser Ghidorah is the most powerful of all the Ghidorahs. And Kaiser Ghidorah pretty much beats the hell out of Godzilla. And the only reason Godzilla is able to win is because he gets powered up by the humans. And so he's able to defeat it, and then that is the final of the Godzilla films in Final Wars. So I don't love this design. It's a really good reproduction, I would say. It's got so many flourishes that the articulation is limited, particularly the head, the shoulders. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on that it's hard to have a lot of articulation. The figure is held up by its tail. I tried to see if I could actually make it stand, but if the weight of the tail is going to pull him back. So it looks like they created this specifically so that it would act as a brace. And it really does it too also with Ghidorah. I'm sorry, with Gigan. The Gigan, the tail is what keeps him from toppling over. So, I mean, that's cool. That's cool that these are very steady figures. Godzilla's not going to fall over either. And I guess technically, they're all held up by their tail. It's just this one is a little bit more obvious in that he is definitely propped up by his tail. If I had a list of Godzilla villains that I wanted the most that Monster Arts has made that I don't own, I would say it would be, I don't know the ordering here, but it would be Destroya, Space Godzilla, and somehow I've never managed to get a Mechagodzilla. I got in just a little too late to get a Mechagodzilla. So this is not a remake. This is new. This is a remake, although they did make some alterations to it. They gave him some more features. So it's not a complete just re-release. Right now, there's not a lot on the horizon that I see. There is a Ghidorah, and it might be Kaiser Ghidorah. I can't remember. I'm not planning on picking it up. It is massive, and just too big for my shelf. So hopefully they're going to be doing some more re-releases. I did a video. They're going to be releasing a Soul of Chogokin Mechagodzilla, which will not be to scale with these figures. It's going to be over 9 inches tall. I want to say that he's probably around 7 inches tall. I'm not sure. Probably close to that. I think Godzilla is about 6.5, and he's probably about 7, maybe even taller than that. He appears to be maybe slightly taller than Gigan. Again, not my favorite figure at all. Not my favorite kaiju, but it is I would say, a really good reproduction of the figure. I think that all of the Monster Arts figures, that is their strong point is screen accuracy and detailing, and so you can see all the detailing in here. So whether I like the design or not is kind of irrelevant. It's whether Bandai successfully, accurately reproduces it, and I would say they do here. It's high quality plastic. It's got a decent weight to it. I don't think it compares to the recently released Hedorah, but Hedorah is also a lot more expensive. This was, I think, about 130. Hedorah was 200. So as far as I know, there is another Shin Godzilla. I've never owned Shin Godzilla. I'm more of a fan of the classic. I liked the film. I liked it a lot. But I'm sure there's more stuff coming on the horizon, and I hope they do releases of some of the figures like Destroya and some of the other ones. But I think it's an excellent reproduction. Whether it's my favorite or not, it's a nice figure. And if you like Monster X, then this is a great figure to have. Anyway, so that's Monster X from Final Wars by Bandai's Monster Arts.